Welcome to Two Saw Acres. Today I am getting into a project that I've been wanting to redo for many years now. This is my homemade log skidder. I use it behind the quad four-wheeler so I can get in and out of the woods, drag 8, 10, 12 foot logs out at one time. The way it works here, sprite chain, pile your logs on, put the catcher chain, it tightens itself as you're pulling on it, and the idea is that when you're pulling on it with the four-wheeler, it actually pulls down a little bit and helps it skid across the ground without tearing up the yard, the two-track, the drive, whatever. It keeps the logs from digging in, makes it easier to drag. The issue I have with it, it's just too dang heavy. It's got to be a metric ton here. It's actually only 65 pounds, but it's still just enormous. When I first got it, all I had was a grinder with a cutoff wheel and a MIG welder, Lincoln 140 MIG welder. And it took a long time. I went through at least a dozen cutoff wheels, and all I had was 3/8 plate steel, which is what the spiked back, the bottom plate, all the bottom skid plates are 3/8 plate. So it's a wee bit too heavy to be lifting on and off the four-wheeler, and yeah, so I already got the steel, and it's just a matter of cutting it up. So I'm going to use 1/4 inch plate this time, and I'm not going to go, it's about 2 feet wide, and I'm not going to put these edge pieces on, at least not nearly as large. They're important. I need a little bit just to help keep the rigidity. So I'm probably going to use this 2 inch by 3/16. I got a 3/8 by 4 inch chunk of steel here. That's a 5-foot piece, and think I'm going to make it much more narrow than that one is. This one's, I don't know, probably 5 or so inches off the ground, and I'm probably only going to make it about 3 inches off the ground. I like my profile of the spikes though, so I'm probably going to just put this on the other piece and mark out my spikes, trace it out, cut it out, and this time I have a plasma cutter, so hopefully that process will go much faster. And the rest of the plate, the other two modifications I want to make, I think instead of just one through for the chain on the bottom, I think I'm going to put two, one on either side, one here and one over here, and then instead of punching a hole through the front of the plate, I think I'm going to attach a ring up top to give it a little more pull down, because I use this hitch with a hook on it, and that's how I drag it. And then when I want to unhook it, it's easy, simple, it works really well. It's just cumbersome for the time being. So a couple slight modifications and just a whole lot lighter. Put on a weight loss program and hopefully it'll be handy. All right, the initial layout is complete. Significantly lower profile than the other one. This one I only have about a 1/2 inch at the lowest point here, coming up to a full inch on the outsides with 1 inch spikes. So the tallest part's only going to be 2 inches high. Got a slight slope here towards the middle, that way the logs tend to stay on rather than roll off. Next we're going to go ahead and plasma cut off this chunk, then plasma cut the top piece off, and then we're going to try to plas out all the teeth. And depending on how it goes, I haven't tried this before, I might just plasma cut close to the bottom on each tooth and then finish it off with the grinder wheel, cutoff wheel, just to make nice clean center cuts. But we'll see how it goes. I'll put you back on here, and I'm going to get set up with the plasma cutter. Alright, so I'm using a Everlast 256 SI multi-process unit. TIG, stick, and plasma cut. find using a small straight edge anything, give myself a decent straight cut. You want to get your offset just slightly, well, really just the same size as your tip. Figure out where the cutting section is. A nice easy drag. For me, it's just, I don't know, probably 3/16 of an inch offset from what I want cut. My actual line is where I need my straight edge to be. And just try to hold it straight. That. Say that turned out pretty good. I'm really happy with that. Right on my line. Alright, sorry about all that noise. That was the air compressor kicking on. You gotta have a pretty decent air supply if you're gonna use a plasma cutter. So I'm really happy with that cut. Knock the dross off and should be just fine. Maybe hit it with a grinder just a smidge. I don't know if it's going to work quite as good doing the rest of this. I'm going to go ahead and start trying this off camera, and we'll see how it looks when we're done. Alright, so far so good. Very first rundown here, I kind of screwed that one up. I didn't have my spacing right, but so far everything else with the plasma cutter is looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and flip this around and I'll get a couple of it on video so you can see the process. I found a different piece of steel to use as my straight edge. It's got a little higher standoff. There. Well, I don't know what that looked like on camera, but let me tell you something. When I made that one, it was with a cutoff wheel and a grinder, an old grinder at that. And I'll bet I went through no less than 6 to 8 wheels just to cut those out. And it probably took me all of 5 or 6 hours at least. I don't think I have a whole 30 minutes invested into this yet, at least this particular part. I'll have a little cleanup to do with the grinding wheel. Most of these will just knock right out. Yep. So, really happy with how this is going so far. Alright, well, first piece is done. Got the one goofed up corner there. Outside of that, I'm pretty happy with it. I did go back and clean it up with a flap disc, knock all the mill scale off, prep it for welding. I didn't really clean up all the teeth all that much other than to get the gunk out of the bottom of the creases of each of the teeth. But it's about the same length overall, 2 feet. It's got a very slight angle to it from outsides to in slope, and much lower profile. So I mean, crap, that alone compared to the old spike, it's got away, I don't know, what, a third at the most of the first one. So well on our way. Next, I think I'm going to cut up the chunks of the base plate and the forward sloping the ramp. And then got this 3/16 by 2 inch bar stock here. We'll cut that bugger up into some side rails, stiffen it up for rigidity, and be on our way. All right, check back in a little bit. All right, we're back. I got the 1/4 inch plate laid out for the bottom chunk, and then I'm going to use 2 to angle up. So I'll cut the big piece, and I'm going to trim the edge off, cut the 3 pieces here out, and then I'll cut the front plate out after I figure out exactly what dimensions I want. I think I'm going to end up going with like a 45/45 and then a smaller triangular piece up top, and that'll create the ramp up front of the skidder, so that when you pull from the top, it actually lifts the back just a little bit to kind of get the weight off the water, you know, get the spikes on the back to push up just a little bit, kind of pull the weight up. So we'll go ahead and cut this one, and then I'll probably do the rest of it off camera. All right, just like that. Okay, we'll come back in a little bit when I got the rest of these cut out. All right, so we got all the main body components, or at least all the bottom skid plate components cut out. Got the main tooth part cut out, the bottom skid plate cut out, the 2 inch thinner sections that will give me my angling, and then the top plate here. And I like where this is heading. So I think here over the next hour or so off camera, I'm gonna go ahead and get everything cleaned up and get some of the edges beveled to take a weld a little bit better. And I think tomorrow we'll go ahead and start tacking everything up, make sure it looks right, and then we'll get the small ridge line pieces cut out and in place, and then get our loops welded in. And I'll tell you, geez, from the first one I made, cutting everything out with a grinder and a cutoff wheel, to using the plasma cutter, geez, at least 10-to-1 time savings. Fantastic. See you tomorrow. Okay, got all the pieces cleaned up last night, all the bevels put in. Just gonna put light tacks on these parts with the MIG welder just to get everything in position. That way with the light tacks I can still move things around a little bit if I need to. There we go. kind of guessing at this. It's kind of the beauty of a project like this. It doesn't have to be perfect. I want a little bit less of a slope. And that's the basic piece now. See if we can get a better view of it. A lot thinner profile. Has a pretty decent slope to it for dragging. And then put some stringers on it to make it a little more rigid. Alright, I'm going to get the rest of the pieces ready to go, and then we'll complete the fabrication. I was able to salvage some pieces off of a chunk of random barn equipment. And while I was off camera, I cut out a circle here. I found this eye bolt, cut the bottom of the eye bolt off. I used the flat washer, big old washer, as my guide, and able to cut that piece right out. So that worked out well. These also came off the same chunk that this did, and I'm planning on using these right here as my chain loops for the bottom, and this will be the chain loop for the top. Now what I'm trying to do is figuring out, I had bought that 2" by 3/16 flat bar stock so I could run edges on it like I did the original one. But I'm starting to think to myself, that's just more added weight, and down here doesn't really need the rigidity of having runners on it. So I wanted something pretty stout. This is 1/4 inch by probably inch and a quarter maybe. Yep, 1.25 inches. And that is going to be plenty strong enough. My concern is that when I'm pulling up here, and I could have 800 pounds worth of logs dragging on this thing. And I want to make sure that this upright can handle that force. So I'm thinking a couple flat bars running right down about right here. And it doesn't have to be all the way, just a little bit to help reinforce this upright section. So what I'm going to try to do here. Alright, so I didn't like how that first piece turned out, and then I realized that I made a mistake in that this angle that I cut on that first piece, there's no way it's going to match up to the second piece because this angle is now longer than the cross section of the material itself, and it's not possible anymore to make it match the next joint. So what I did is I cut pieces out that are going to be square. Well, they are square. Cut out the right length from edge to edge of the width of these pieces. Got everything held in place with magnets, and I went through and just used a magic marker and marked the even point. And then what I'll do is I'll cut from that even point, that mark there, straight to the actual corner on each one. So I've got all these even marks or even points. That's the height. When I say even, I mean the height of the steel at the joint. Because if you cut one side higher or lower, you end up with a different length of the cross section, and then your joint isn't going to match up. So I'll cut from that point there straight down to the actual corner, that I've already lined up perfectly with the edges of the joints. So cut it right from here straight down to the corner, and I'll do the same thing on the other piece. That way my butts, the joint there, the joint butt is going to be exactly the same height on all of these. And then when I get all these ones cut, if it matches, if it all sits flush together end to end to end, then I'll just go ahead and duplicate that for the other side and make it the exact same way. All right, be off camera. All right, first attempt. Pretty happy with this. So it's nice and straight. Most of my valleys, or ridges rather, are pretty much level all the way up. And I got a little bit of a gap in between there, but that's fine. We can fill that in with weld as we get going. But I think that will give this front plate the rigidity that I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and make up the other pieces off camera, get everything kind of in place, and we'll be back. Okay, we're back. Pretty much got it how I want it. Got the eye bolt ring just tacked in place up top. I got my 2 rows of reinforcements just tacked in place. The teeth are in place. Again, everything's just tacked right now. I think what I'm going to end up doing is filling in these little gaps here and probably the short runs all the way up and underneath with the MIG welder. I can stack dimes with the MIG welder. I've been doing it a long time. But for filling in these long gaps all the way around, it's hard to beat a stick welder for throwing down a big fat bead. And honestly, I'm just not good enough with a stick welder to try to get in all these intricate places, and I really don't want to be trying to chip slag out of there. 6013 peels off real nice. However, it does leave inclusions, and I don't want to be dealing with that right in those crevices. So we'll get all the little intricate welding done with the MIG welder, and then we'll go back with the 6013 and fill it all in. Like all these long runs here will be 6013 on the tombstone arc welder, and those runs should go pretty quick and easy. And I'm not too awfully worried about it being all that doggone strong. It's it's nothing critical or life-threatening if it fails, so which I don't think it will, but we'll see. All right, that's where we are. We'll get back in a little bit. All right, MIG welds are done. Pretty pleased with those. Just got in all them gaps down in there. Focus. Well, you can see them just fine on this side with the light. Alright, now the embarrassing part. Got the monster fired up, old Lincoln Tombstone, got the leads out, got the 6013 out. And I'm going to show you how terrible I am at this. I wouldn't say I'm terrible, I've seen worse, but I almost always end up sticking it a few times before I really get rolling. I think I'm going to do this back edge first, just cause it's a big long straight stretch, help me get in the groove. Not a professional welder by any means, so try not to laugh too hard. Tell if I'm burning too hot. Try this this on AC. I'm on VCR right now. Alright, we're at about 110 amps AC now. Some of this bead looks okay. It's honestly probably just me not reading it right. Alright. That's the way it's supposed to look. I'll get you around here with the camera. Yeah. So. Alright, so that was my first run down there. Pretty crappy. This is why I like 6013 though. That whole bead just, yeah, that looks much better. Mucho better. Alright. So, I'm going to go ahead and finish welding this up. We'll be back here in a little while. So welding's going pretty good. I decided to give the 7018 a shot. I'm really glad I did. It's going in a lot easier. And the slag is popping off a lot easier. My 6013 is pretty old and I probably need to dry it out some. But we're going to do a couple beads here with the 7018 just so you guys can see what I'm working with here. And then I'll probably just finish up on it. You can see how it's already, the slag's already peeling up. It's just so much nicer to work with. Look at that big old chunk just falling right off. No beating on it. I mean, I still have to hit it with the hammer a little bit here and there, but such a nice bead. We'll do a short run. How about right on the inside here? Take you off the tripod here, show you what we just did. So this one here, come on, focus. Yeah, so that was the first run here. Second one right in here. Most of that slag just pops right off. I am by no means a professional welder. If you want to learn how to do that, jump on YouTube and find some welding videos. There's a lot of good channels out there, which is actually where I learned how to use the stick welder. But I am really happy with these. I mean, is it perfect? Nope. Is it going to fall off? Nope. And that's one that, you know, you just tap it with the hammer, or your slag hammer. Falls right off. It's not perfect, but doggone, it doesn't look bad. Alright, next time y'all see this, we're going to be all welded up. This one back here was the 6013, and I had a lot of inclusions. Some of it looked beautiful. Like there was a few runs up under here, hard to see, but some of those runs turned out beautiful. But just overall, I was having a tough time with that 6013. All right, next one, she should be welded up. All right, well here she is, all done. Welds aren't perfect, but they're gonna hold. I decided to put my chain loop here, a single in the back rather than two, just because I'm thinking if I got one on each edge, the chain can't really tighten all the way down to a noose when it's fighting against the two outside. So I put it back just like the other one, right in the middle, and I don't know if it's going to work exactly like I was hoping. I really wanted to be able to pull straight on this front tongue That way when you pull on it, it kind of levers it up, it gets the logs off the ground a little bit. But that's not going to happen if I'm not actually pulling on this front part. When I pull on the chain's going to be hooked to the logs, so I'll be pulling the logs. So those forces are kind of different there. But since it's chained down to the skidder, that's kind of what holds it in place. So we're going to try it, see how it works. Stay tuned. Next video I'll go out in the woods and we'll actually give it a shot. So thanks for watching. Hopefully this helps somebody. If it does, please give me a thumbs up. And stay tuned. I'll have more videos like this coming. Ciao.